Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and the video that's going to come up, it was supposed to be a live stream. What I was going to do was I was going to do a live stream going through this new automatic writing journal, talking about, well, what happened was I had a psychedelic experience about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and what happened was afterwards, for about a week, I kept, every time I did my automatic writing, I was getting these downloads. So what I wanted to do is get them all onto the video, and I was going to do it as a live stream just to get it out there. But when I tried to do it, I can't work out how to do a live stream. The audio was all out of sync and stuff. So I've actually recorded these as 3 separate videos for the moment. I think it works out about 3 hours. I'll put them out over the next 3 days, and we get to it ends with talking about farts. How cool is that? Yeah, we're talking about these really super serious, deep topics, and then you also start talking about farts. I thought it was cool. So I hope you enjoy this one, and well, what is it? I think there's going to be one more next week. We'll do probably 1 or 2 next week as well, and that'll be the end of it. Fascinating stuff going on here. Some of it is quite complicated and stuff, but yeah, I hope you enjoy this. Boing! So let's get into this then. So this is my automatic writing journal, and this we start where I left off. So I'll put a link to all the other videos in the description, but we ended with it saying a never-ending process. So then what I did was I went to sleep, and Sunday night I went to sleep. Monday in the morning I woke up to do my automatic writing, and I didn't, what happened was it carried on, basically. The download just carried on. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to go through my automatic writing, just basically saying everything that it said. There is quite a lot of it, and also I have to go through my dream diary as well, because what was happening was I'd wake up in the middle of the night for those 4 or 5 days. I'd have a dream, and I'd realise the dream was actually having more information in it. This goes into so much stuff, even like the Hitler, you know, that Hitler symbol, it goes into stuff like that as well. It was explaining so much stuff, it's quite amazing really. And also there was this grid, which I've just ripped. No, well, there's this grid. It gave me this grid, which I put on the other videos. Basically what this grid is this is the balance point. It's all to do with numbers, 369. This grid represents 3, which is the process. Everything is going through the process. Everything is in process. When you're inside of time, you're in a process. The timeless, there is no process. So in the timeless, all there is point particles completely in balance. Everything is just in balance. As soon as you go into time, which is the virtual reality illusion or the dream, this is when you get the 3, which is the process. So this grid represents 3, which is a process. This here is balance. It's the balance of all opposites, all entangled opposites, positive and negative, physical and spiritual, fear and love, everything. This is the balance where you are completely in, you've got the positive and negative in sync. Basically what happens here is you become a paradox by having positive and negative coexisting, because what it is this is all about entanglement. Positive is entangled with negative. You can't have positive without negative. In the balance, which is 9, the number 9, in the balance there is no entanglement. Everything just exists as one. So you've basically created a paradox within the paradox. This is how you get your balance. And everything else, all of the rest of this grid, represents the number 6, which is out of balance. You can also look at this as like the subconscious. So this is your consciousness where you're awake, which they say is like 5%. And then they say your subconscious is 95%. This is like the grid. The most of this grid is out of balance. And what also it is as you get closer to getting into balance, the energy gets more intense. This is why as you're awakening, you actually, it gets worse. My Reiki healer even said, she said once, it gets worse before it gets better. The reason is, until you are in the balance, which is, you could even see that as enlightenment. Somebody who's become enlightened is in balance. But before you get to that point, it gets incredibly intense, the energies, because what's happening is, you could almost look at this as like a black hole. On the edge of the black hole is all the energy, like that. As soon as you get through the energy, you're at peace. But the further away you get from the black hole, the less it is. So like over here, pure positive, you're sort of almost in balance in the positive, but you're still in a 6 because you're not in balance. It gets a bit confusing, I suppose, but basically, the further away you get from being in balance, the easier it is, even though it might be the most negative. So you might be at the most negative, and you think, well, why not just go over to the positive and stay there? That would be like being in heaven. The thing is, that isn't actually in balance. If you're in heaven, positive, you've still got the negative. This is the thing, you're still entangled. I think the whole point of this thing that we're inside of is to become completely in balance and break the entanglements. So that's basically the grid, which I'll keep going through that. I'll keep coming back up to that later, but so I'm just going to read now from the automatic writing. This is going to cover stuff like point particles, God and the devil, pyramids, and all stuff like that. So what does it say? It says all point particles are entangled. So when you become balance, all become balance. Yeah, this is cool as well. Again, this goes into that thing of when you, in the timeless, you've got all the point particles. In the timeless, all the point particles are in balance. This is what's so funny about it. We are inside of the illusion of trying to find balance, but really, what we really are is already in balance. That's what's quite funny about this whole thing. But so it says here, look, you have to take action in the physical, as that's when it feels most real, so the fear feels most scary. But really, it's then that it's the biggest illusion. This is how amazing it is. What you have to do is you have to take the real, which is the timeless, you have to take the real, turn it into an illusion inside of the physical. So you have to turn it into an illusion, because that's when it feels most real. Because in the physical, because we are inside of the physical, it feels most real when stuff is physical, even though that's when it's at its biggest illusion. So it's this weird, funny thing where, look, I've said here, look, which is why it's so, I said why it's so funny, because your action when it's most scary is, this is the other thing, when you're doing automatic writing, it's quite hard to read me writing sometimes, which is why it's so funny, because your action when it's most scary is something that you know, because your action proves you see it all to be an illusion. I can't read that word there. This is quite annoying. Which is why it's so funny, because your action when it's most scary is showing that you know, because your action proves you see it all to be an illusion. And you're scared at this point because you now realise you're going to take the action, which scares you because you know how scared you're going to be, which is so funny, because you know you're being scared, because you know being scared is the biggest illusion. There's something in that. Let's see say it again. Look. So this is all about, what it is you're turning you're making the real, the truth, you're bringing it into the illusion, which is what we are inside of. So fear inside of this illusion feels super real, but really it's an illusion. It's not real. But the thing is, so look, you become scared at this point because you now realise you're going to take action. Because what's happened is, once you realise this is an illusion, you now realise there's nothing to be afraid of. So now you're going to take the action, which becomes scary because you know you're going to take the action, and you know how real this illusion feels. Which scares you because you know how scared you're going to be, which is so funny because you know you're being scared, because you know you being scared is the biggest illusion. Action. it's so funny. You don't have to let go, as there was never anything to let go of. It's all an illusion. Why it's most real is what's this? It's all an illusion. When it's look at this. Look, this is amazing. It's all an illusion. When it's most real, it's the biggest illusion. In other words, the more solid this table is, the more of an illusion it is. The real table is not a solid thing at all. So this is what I'm saying. You've got to basically make everything an illusion, because you're inside of the illusion, you will think it's real. So you have to make things not real to realise. It's mad, this is. You have to make things not real, which we think is real, because we are inside of the illusion. And that proves, it's in that process that you realise that it's an illusion. It's all an illusion, which is, when it's most real, it's the biggest illusion. And I've put here, I'm both crying and laughing because balance is both at the same time. Yeah, crying and laughing. Both opposites. Which doesn't make sense, but yeah. It's this knowing it's this knowing that creating the action to bring about the balance. It's this knowing that creates the action to bring about the balance. In other words, the thing with this is, some of it sounds like you're talking gibberish. You're trying to explain something when you can't really explain it in words. It's quite hard, this is, because as I'm saying this stuff, I know what I want to say. As soon as I try to say the words to explain it, it doesn't make sense. It's very strange, that. But basically what it is when you realise that it's this knowing that this is an illusion, that's what creates the action, and it's the action which is going to get you into the balance point. Action is how you speak in paradox. Look at this, look. Action. So action inside of the physical, and the physical is the illusion. So action inside of the physical is how you speak in paradox without words. In other words, trying to explain the illusion inside of the illusion just creates a paradox. The only way you can explain it is by taking action. Action is the language of paradox. Action is the language of paradox. What's so funny is how funny it all is. How cool is that, look? What's funny is how funny it is. You couldn't even try to think about it because you even think in paradox. How amazing is that? You can't even think about it, because thinking about it, again, you're using words, which is creating a paradox. So look, knowing is non-paradox. Action is living paradox. and then you get scared because you start thinking, because you start trying to think it out, but you realise there is no need, as you've already done it. All the particles are entangled. That's the entangled within entanglement. So all these particles, each one of these little things here is like a paradox, is like a point particle, and along the grid, basically in the timeless, you've got all these little point particles. They're all entangled with each other. So the knowing is just having experienced the timeless, basically. This is what you're trying to explain. You're trying to explain the timeless inside of the paradox, inside of the illusion, which creates a paradox. So the thing is, you kind of have to experience it, but the thing is, you want to explain it, because it's so powerful once you know it, that you want everyone to know it. But the thing is, you can't. You have to experience it. It's a bit weird. Fearless. There is no fear, but you're still scared, but also laughing at being scared. How cool is this? You're having all these emotions at the same time. You know there is nothing to be afraid of, because really you are the timeless. But you're still scared, because you're inside of the illusion. So because you're inside of the illusion, you're scared, because that's part of being inside of the illusion, is being scared. But then you're also laughing, because you are the timeless, realising that you're being scared. So you're both laughing and scared at the same time. It's so funny. what's this? You won't realise, yeah, look at this, look. You won't realise when you've died, you were already in balance. In other words, when you die, you're not even going to realise that you've died. Because you're already dead. This is the thing, the timeless is effectively dead. But really, you could say that us being in the illusion is us being dead. It's almost like the opposite way around. You even start laughing at what you're saying, as you can hear it doesn't make sense while knowing that it is. This is what I loved here. I was trying to explain. I suppose you're trying to explain the timeless, and you're laughing at yourself because as you're writing about it, you know that you're not making any sense, but you know what you're saying. It's really weird. This is. What's this here? Look. I found. Oh look! I finished The Power of Now just before. Yeah, this was something. All of a sudden, I thought to myself, "There's this book called The Power of Now." I finished that book the night before I did these psychedelics, and I'd been reading that book for about 3 months, I think. And it just so happened that I finished it the day before. And then I said, now I read The Hero with 1,000 Faces, because the universe has said to me that that book, A Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell, is a very important book. And I feel like now, with this sort of download, it's going to make a lot more sense to me. So we've got that arrow going to the right, and it says, the balanced timeline flows from negative to positive. So you have to go to hell to get to earth, to get to the heaven, to realise you were already in the new earth all along. So basically what this is you could look at that line there, it's like the timeless. You start out in heaven, you go through the earth, into hell, and then you pop out into the balance. That was just, but you got, this thing here is, you've got times within time. I'll go into it in a minute, look. This is it here, look. You got your two timelines. You got your main timeline, which is the timeless. And what happens is, that point, this little dot here is a point particle. And what it does is, it goes up. So this here is the illusion. This arrow thing here is the illusion of being a human. So this is you getting born into hell, into the earth, into the heaven, and then basically what happens is you're now completely in balance. You go back to the main timeline. You go back to the timeless. At which point you are all particles in balance, as there is no entanglement. So you have to go through hell, earth and heaven. You have to go through all of the opposites and be in balance. Because if you're not in balance at this point, you just loop through this pit. You're going to keep looping until... Because you got loops. Later on we talk about that. You got loops within these loops. Gets a bit sort of like fractal in a minute. So at which point you are all particles in balance, as there is no entanglement. So you will you'll experience this again and again forever. Yeah, in other words, you go back... Because what happens is, you're this point particle. You go up here, you experience the illusion, you come back, you're now flowing back through here. So you're gonna end up going back through it again. So it is a never-ending process like that. But there's this bit here which is timeless, so it's kind of funny. You're trying to explain timeless as a timeline, but there's a bit here where you are going to be in the timeless, completely in balance. So you've got a bit in the illusion, you've got a bit in the real, and it's just like that. You are experiencing all point particles finding balance. That's the thing, because really you are the God basically, which is the timeless. So this line goes on forever. All little point particles going through the same thing, experiencing the illusion, which all the illusion is a point particle finding balance. All it's doing is experiencing all possible probabilities of this point particle existing in space in relation to all the other point particles. Because at any one moment, it could be at any one point. Once it's experienced all of them, it's back into being imbalanced. It's back into being balanced, which means it's gone right through the process and it's back to being itself again. The solid final state is the line along the cross from negative to positive, which is this one here. But the thing you got to remember as well is this is spinning this way along that axis, and it's spinning that way as well, and it's spinning, look, like this. So it's all spinning, because it's the spinning which creates the process. In the timeless, the point particles are not spinning. So they are both spinning and not spinning at the same time. And the way it's done that is it's entangled itself within an entanglement. So this is how you end up with process. You end up with the timeless and time entangled with each other. It's amazing. From hell to heaven. To return to what you really are. The journey is to flow seamlessly through hell, earth and heaven in total balance, which is a paradox. So it ends the illusion as the illusion is a paradox. So if you can become a paradox inside of the paradox, you break the illusion. That's basically what we're doing. Us finding balance is us basically breaking the illusion. And I've said, it's so funny, you have to become what you are inside of what you aren't to return to what you are. How cool is that? You have to become what you are inside of what you aren't to return to what you are. In other words, you have to become God inside of the illusion to return to being God. Being a human is the illusion. So if you as a human can become God inside of the illusion, then you return to being God. I can't believe how genius yet so funny it is. There is only ever you, as the consciousness is the point particle travelling along the process. Wearing no wig. So what happened was I started wearing a wig, and it says wearing no wig equals if you think it makes no sense, but you knew. So you took the action. The action is what you're trying to find with words, but there are no words in paradox, only knowing. Because what I did was I took my wig off on the podcast. And that is like that action, the action of taking my wig off was me accepting my hair and accepting myself. And it's that is the action of balance. So it's actions like that, taking your wig off, it's actions of living truth inside of the illusion, no matter what the consequences are. That's what breaks the illusion. So no words, only action. When someone dies to you, they are returning to balance. It seems to all happen at different times, but it all happens at the same time. If you're not in balance, no one else is. So once you're in balance, you don't care what anyone else thinks, but at that point, they aren't thinking anything as they are in balance. They only think and judge when you're not in balance because it's you. In other words, people are only thinking about you and judging you if you yourself are not in balance. Because what's happening is, it's you judging yourself that is causing other people to judge you, because really they're not judging you. It's you judging yourself, and what you're doing is you're projecting that onto other people. It's quite cool. So this is what this little thing here. Time in balance equals a line. Time in process equals the wiggle. A spinning balance creates wiggle. Wiggle creates physical. So what's happening is, basically, what we've really got is a timeless, but the timeless vibrating or spinning is what's creating the physical. So this is what it's all to do with the wiggles. And all wiggles are is waves, positive and negative. It's like we already know all of this, it's just we haven't put it all together. If you're not in balance, you will care what people think because you're not in balance. They will be judging because you're not in balance. When you're in balance, there is no judging. So if there's judging, you're not in balance. Yeah, so basically what that's saying is the outside world is basically revealing to you your inner state, basically. Yeah, if you're in balance, the rest of there is no judging, basically. It's the spinning that creates the complexity. When you're scared but excited, that's you in balance. The minute you start trying to think it out, you put yourself out of balance. But you feel like you need to think it out to make sense of it, which is what's so funny. You don't need to make sense of it, as you already know. This is what's weird. When you make this sort of connection with the truth, you just want to write about it, but you could be here forever writing about it. There's no point. All you need is to know that you know. It's almost like it's quite weird. What's amazing is nothing's changed, but everything's changed. You were already in balance, just pretending you weren't. Yeah, this goes back into this again. You are really always that. It's just you're in the process of returning to yourself. So this is why nothing's changed, but everything's changed. Because all of a sudden what's happened is you've seen through the illusion. So you are still inside of the illusion. So nothing's changed, but everything's changed because you now see it to be an illusion. You take action without thinking, as to think creates paradox. To think takes you out of balance. It's action without thinking, action from the knowing. What's this little thing here? Look. It says we got an arrow there, but this is the circle of being a human, I think. So look, yeah, this one travels forward, but really it's still travelling in reverse because look, this timeline here is going forwards. So the point particle becomes a human. It's still travelling forward at this point, but at some point it starts travelling backwards. See, there's a point here where it's travelling backwards, even though it's really still travelling forward, because that circle is really a straight line. It's really only ever travelling one way. It's just it looks like it's travelling the other way. When you die, time slows down as you start travelling in reverse. So yeah, what we heard about when people die, near-death experiences, life flashes before their eyes. If you're ever in a car crash, time slows down. I've experienced that before as a child. My dad, he crashed into this bank. And what happened was, for about, I was going to say like a minute, but it was about a second before we hit the bank, head on, everything slowed down. And you could smell the tyre smoke. All the senses went to extreme. But what happened was, it went in super slow motion. So what's happening is, it's like this. You're getting close. Maybe what happened is, that was a point in your life where you could have died. So you were right close to death. What happens is, if you're close to death, you're going to be returning back to the timeless. So at close to death, you're going to be going backwards through time, which is that's what creates the change in your experience of time. This is like a load of wiggles. True time would be a spring that's really a straight. Yeah. So in other words, what we've got this here, you've got this. This is a human basically experience. You could look at this line here as like a god experiencing being a human. So it goes into a human, comes along here, it'll do it again. So if you zoomed out, what you would see is that. So at some far out distance, it looks like a straight line. But if you zoomed in close enough, it would look like a spring, like a wiggle. And then if you zoomed in close enough, you would see this, loads of circles on the line. But really, it's a straight line. But it looks like it's a load of wiggles. To think is to be out of balance. Action without thinking equals balance. Thinking creates the illusion. It's all entanglement. It's the process of entanglement and unentangling itself, which is a paradox. So what we are unentangling ourselves from the entanglement with the physical, basically. We are sort of entangled inside of this physical. It's so scary to think. It's not, I like this, look. It's so scary to think, it's not scary to take action. It's the thinking that it creates the fear. If you take action without thinking, there is no fear. It's only when you start thinking that you get fear. Thinking puts you out of balance because it takes you, as a point particle, off the balance into the possibility. In other words, if you're taking action without thinking, you are here. You are completely in balance. If you start thinking, what's happening is you're going into this you're going into the possibility realm. So this here is a 9. Action without thinking is a 9, completely in balance. If you start thinking, you're putting yourself into a 6, because what you're doing is you're moving you as a point particle, you're moving yourself into probabilities, which could be positive or negative, but that's what's going to create the fear. And it says possibility equals non-balance. Possibility equals illusion. So being out of balance is the illusion. So the physical is the illusion of being out of balance, when really you are in balance. And you can use the same words for loads of different things. Balance could be God, and then like out of balance could be being a human. But then you've also got humans who are in balance. But they really are like gods. Like Muji, for instance, he's like a god, because he's inside of the illusion, but he is sort of so connected to what he really is that he's not really a human, but he still is. If you're thinking, you're either trying to work it all out or thinking about a past experience. In other words, if you're thinking, you're either putting yourself into, again, you could have past and future on this grid. If you're thinking, you're either putting yourself into the past or you're putting yourself into the future. So that's what thinking is, taking yourself out of balance, basically. Action equals presence, which equals no thinking. I love that. I love the fact that action is the language of truth. You can't use words. Really, what's happened is, it's the words that have confused everything. It's language that's confused a lot of stuff here, which is why it's best to talk with symbols and numbers, because numbers and symbols do not get corrupted, I suppose, or misinterpreted. So it says here, you have to go to hell to find heaven. On your way to heaven, you go to earth, only to realise you were already at the new earth. On your way to heaven, you travel through earth. How cool is that? I like that. Basically, heaven and hell are just two extreme versions of earth. Earth in the middle, in complete balance, is the new earth, which is like the true heaven. The heaven and hell that we think of is actually just, hell is basically just an extremely negative version of the earth. Heaven that we think of is just an extremely positive version of the earth, but all of them are still illusions. It's the new earth, which is the earth completely in balance. There is no entanglements there, even though it itself is entangled with the heaven and the hell. So this is where you get your paradox. You've got an entanglement within an entanglement. This is why it's a never-ending process. It's not two separate timelines. It's one that is looping within itself, which goes back to this. Because it's just like the wiggles. Because those circles, what's happening really is, it's not going like that, it's going like this. So really what's happening is, the timeline is going like this. But it's also a loop. It's not a straight line either. That is a loop. So I think later on we get into it. Somewhere along later on we get you get circles. Yeah, look, see, it's like that. It's basically it's a circle with circles. Yeah, I need a pen. Where's my pen? If I was to draw it, it would look like this. This is what we really are, is a timeless, which is a never-ending process itself. But it's not a straight circle like that. It's really like this. And each of those little circles is like a human. Is experience. To think is to be out of balance. I think action equals presence equals no thinking. Oh, here we go. What's this? Yeah, look. From a distance, it looks like a wiggle. Up close, it's straight with all the wiggles as spinning spheres. So this is what it looks like from a distance. It looks like a wave, basically. But up close, it looks like this. It's straight with all the little point particles. The grid represents truth. So this grid represents truth. The centre is truth. All of that is lies, which is the illusion. positive lies and negative lies equals the illusion. So basically, positive lies, negative lies, they're all an illusion. Truth equals balance. So the truth, the knowing, is this bit here, which is a 9. So all lies are 6. And all that is it's out of balance. Truth is a 9. 3, 6, 9. Look how much lies there is compared to the truth. Yeah, look how much lies there is compared to the truth. But the lies is also the same word for illusion. Look how much of it is an illusion. Look how small in relation to the illusion the truth is. This is why it's hidden itself so well. But it's inevitable that you're going to become truth, because all the illusion, all of the lies are entangled with the truth. And you really are the truth experiencing the illusion. So you might be in the illusion for millions of years, but you are always going to become truth. Because that's what you really are. You are already the truth, just inside of this illusion. Look how much lies there is compared to truth. Truth is so tiny in comparison, but it's at the heart of all the lies. The truth is at the centre of all lies. How cool is that? So basically, when you get a bunch of lies, it's like layers of an onion. You've got an onion. The centre of that onion is the truth. And then what happens is all the layers of the onion are just lies upon lies. So what you have to do is you have to basically peel away all the lies, which is what you do when you start awakening. You start realising that, for instance, that the ancient history has been manipulated. You start realising the corruption and stuff. This is you basically peeling away layers of this onion until you get to the truth. The truth is at the centre of all lies. So no matter how far into the illusion you get, you're always connected to truth. You are God. The centre of that onion is God. All the layers are basically you as a human. Now, this also goes into the dream realm. We get into that later. In the dream realm, you have these things called false awakenings. And what happens, the more I get into these false awakenings, the more I'm convinced what's happening is, when we go into our dreams at night, we go into, I feel like, let's say this is you as a human here on the physical. So what happens is you go into a dream realm. So this is you dreaming now. I believe what's happening is, inside of a dream, you end up having another dream. So you're now 2 levels deep into the dream. And I feel like this can go on for quite a long way. So what happens is, when you've had a false awakening, what a false awakening is you've woken up, you think you've woken up, only to realise you're still dreaming. So then what happens is you have to wake yourself up again. Now, when you get a string of these false awakenings, what's happening is, you've had a dream here, and you've woken up into a reality which is 99% the same as this one. So you're convinced you're awake. Suddenly something will be different. Like, for instance, you might have, your pyjamas might be, say, blue instead of pink, and you think, this isn't right. You realise you're still dreaming. So you wake yourself up again. You're basically, what you're doing is you're going up the levels of the dream realm until you get yourself back to being fully awake. Now what I'm saying is, this one here, which is us in the physical, I'm thinking what's happening is we are actually doing the same thing. When we become enlightened and wake up, we're going to move up a level. So we're going to do the same thing as what we're doing in the dream realm. So really we are, and then who knows, maybe it goes up forever like this. and this also might be a loop. So it might be that one of your dreams here could actually be you're dreaming about, like, being up here. See? It's quite weird. So when you die, what you're doing is, when you die, you're moving up a level. Whereas when you go to sleep, you're moving down through the levels. So this is more, well, but I think it's actually the other way around. So when you're dreaming, you're going up the levels. When you die, you might be going down the levels. It's as above, so below. It's probably the same thing. I love it though. What I've realised through all of this is the dream realm is key to understanding what we're inside of. look, I love this bit here, look. So no matter how far into the illusion you get, which could be like this, inside of the dream, you are always connected to the truth, because you are this one here dreaming. You are God. Effectively, inside of the dream realm, Sophie Lawson is the God. Sophie Lawson is the God to all of these dream characters or figures. But inside of the physical, God is the God to Sophie Lawson. It's like that. All that's got to happen is we've got to wake ourselves up inside of the physical to return back to the God. God, and this is the experience. This is the grid again. This grid represents every single thing. Art and transgender were nothing but ways to understand the paradox. I was already in balance. Basically, art, when I started learning about art and stuff, what it did was, what I realise now is I thought art was all going to be about me. Well, I suppose I thought I was going to be making money and stuff of my art. I thought it was going to become my job. It might still do that, but I feel like the whole point of art was to show me paradoxes, because it opened my mind up. When you start studying art, you start realising about negative shapes and negative space and stuff. You start realising how much of the world is an illusion, and you have to see the illusion of the world to be able to draw it, basically. And then transgender was the same thing. When I changed my name to Sophie, I realised I was still the same person. In other words, I went through this whole transition to become Sophie to realise I was actually still the same thing, which it basically shows that's like a paradox. I was already the thing, but I thought I wasn't. So I had to go through the process of changing to realise I was already the same thing. I was already in balance. This is amazing. I love that. It has to go through hell of heaven to get back to itself. Each point particle has to experience all positive and negative experiences to be in balance. This is why we've got the big circle with all these things. The big circle is the God itself. Now, the thing that's happening here is each of these little circles is the God experiencing itself as a human. This big thing here is the God. Now, the thing is, this thing here is doing the exact same thing, but on a bigger scale. So there's like another God above this God experiencing all the types of gods to find balance. It's never ending. It's madness. Life is the journey of balance via experience. The one timeline has every single possible positive and negative experience in it, as the only timeline is God, experiencing itself in all possibilities. Because the other thing that starts happening is you realise that one of these bigger circles ends up being one of these little circles. So it's almost like, this is where you get really paradoxical and you can't even draw that. You're trying to draw this big circle being one of these little circles. So in other words, what happens is no matter how far or no matter how deep you get or how high up you get, you're sort of like looping. You're sort of looping within these loops. Yeah, I can't draw it. It's a shape that you can't draw. But basically that bigger shape there, it ends up being one of the little shapes. So it's almost like the God itself is the human is the God. This is how you end up with it being enclosed within itself, sort of thing. You are God. What's this say? What's this here? Look. The only choice equals experience. Yeah, so we have free will. The whole point of being a human is free will. And it's that free will that creates the experience. You do have a choice, but it's really an illusion as you're already in balance. So no experience and there's no choice. So what that means is, you do have a choice, because as this point particle, you have a choice that you could put yourself over here to experience this sort of... Because if you put yourself over here, you would be experiencing that level of positive and negative inside of the physical and spiritual. So you've got a choice to do that, but really you've got no choice because you're always here. So even choice is like an illusion, but you do have a choice because your choice will give you the experience. But it's only like a temporary experience because really you're here. So choice is just like a temporary experience. As above, so below. It's not static, as it's all spinning. So below may be above 1 minute, and it may be below the next. How cool is that? There is no above or below, as it's all in motion. Again, it goes back to that thing where really it's just a point particle. So there is no motion really, but when it goes into motion, it has to have up and down. It has to have above and below because that's part of the entanglement. But really there is no above and below because it's spinning. So this is above, the next minute it's below, the next minute it's above. It's cool. There's not even above and below in the one timeline as there is no entanglement there. So no above or below. And I've put here, I thought it was 2 timelines. It's only one. Just using the spinning particle to create time loops. Again, really, what we've really got is, in the timeless, all you've got is that. You've just got a point particle existing. And then that creates all the other point particles and the whole thing of everything spinning. Spinning particles creates time loops. So it's the spinning which creates the illusion, which creates time. Time loop equals experience. Reincarnation is a point particle spinning. The one timeline has no time, so it's not even flowing in reverse, as there is no reverse. It's flowing in all directions at the same time. So all experience happens at the same time, but the spinning allows it to be self-contained in the time loop. It has to be order, else you won't. What's this? It has to be order, else you won't understand. Painted nails as Kevin makes no sense. No wig makes no sense. Changing name to Sophie first makes no sense. But you didn't think, you just did because you knew. So this is the examples I've had where you act with knowing and you don't think. Because what happened was there was a period where I was still living as Kevin. I knew I wanted to transition, but it felt very scary. So what I started doing was I started going out as Kevin, wearing painted nails. Now, if I had sat and thought about that, I wouldn't have done it because it didn't make sense. You know, a bloke outside with painted nails, it just doesn't make sense. But I did it because I knew. Same thing as when I started taking my wigs off. If I had thought about it, like a female with bald patches on her head, it doesn't make sense. I did it because I knew. I just knew it was what I had to do. Changing name to Sophie first. What I did was I was still living as male, but I changed my name to Sophie before I started presenting as female. Again, if I'd thought about that, it wouldn't have made sense. Well, it didn't make sense, and I wouldn't have done it if I'd thought about it, but I did it because I knew. So that's like, this is like examples of acting, of action without thinking, which is truth. To leave energy unresolved equals a 6. Unresolved equals fear. So 6 is fear. A completed energy cycle equals 9, which means you're in balance. So complete. So a resolved cycle of energy equals love. An unresolved cycle of energy equals fear. And it's fear that will keep the reincarnation going. Because that's what that is. If you're in fear, you're out of balance, which means you're going to keep the cycle going, because you're going to keep the process going, which is free. So 3 keeps going until you're 9, because 6 means the process continues. 9 ends the process, and process is free. Go towards the energy to complete the cycle, to avoid or run. Yeah, look, going towards the energy completes the cycle. If you go towards the energy, which again, that's like acting without thinking. Because if there's like a monster in a dream, for instance, if you go towards it, if you think about it, you wouldn't go towards it. But if you go towards it and you trust, you will transcend the monster. But if you run away from it or try to hide from it, you're keeping the monster alive. 666 equals a pyramid of unresolved energy. How cool is that, look? They left unresolved energy in the pyramids. This is when it starts going on about the pyramids. Later on we get into loads of stuff about the pyramids. They left unresolved energy in the pyramids. The pyramids need to be cleansed. Yeah, the pyramids need to be cleansed. Love to the pyramids. Look at this, look. I love this. Tears are physical representations of 6 or 9. Tears of love and joy equals 9. Tears of fear or sadness equals 6. So, I love that. Tears are physical representations of the process. Yeah, so if you're in fear, the way fear presents itself inside of the illusion, in the physical, is via tears. But the way love presents itself inside of the physical with illusion is also tears. How cool is that? It's using the same... Tears are like a language of numbers, basically. 3 is the process to 6 or 9, the process of fear or love. This feels so solid as it's the final loop. Yeah, in other words, this physical that we're inside of now, because if you are the conscious one, that means you are on the timeline where you are closest to being in balance. All the other ones will feel like dreams. This one feels solid because we are on the final loop through the process of finding balance. So the more you get closer to balance, the more it becomes solid. Over here, the further away, the more like a dream it will be. The more sort of like spirit. So this will be more like spirit. But the funny thing is, as soon as you pop in there, there's nothing, because it's the physical that's the illusion. Because you're entangled with the outside becomes pure solid, inside becomes pure non-solid. Balance equals no entanglement, so first you need total entanglement to find balance. Yeah, how cool is that, look? This is why you have to go to heaven and hell first, because heaven and hell are pure entanglements, basically. Because if you're in heaven, you're purely entangled with hell. If you're in hell, you're purely entangled with heaven. So first you need total entanglement to find the balance. So it's a reverse too. When inside is most solid, so if your beliefs are most solid, it's when the outside is the most non-solid. So if your beliefs are the most solid, it's when the outside is going to have change and conflict. That's when you're going to have the most... It's going to be like that, vibrating. New Earth equals 3, which is process. New Earth is process spinning. Hell equals 6. Heaven equals 9. And these are solid states within the physical. Whereas the New Earth is like a... It's not physical. All the stars are the point particles. So when we look up into the night sky, we're looking at the point particles of the timelessness. We are each a star. God is a blue star. God is a blue star, which is the new earth. 6 and 9 are the two possible states of 3. So 3 can only be 6 or 9. And basically, if you was doing programming, you could have like a repeat until loop. I used to do programming at university. You had these things called repeat until. So what you did was you said repeat, and then you'd put something in here, like say, I don't know, write a letter, say, write a number, right? No, repeat 1 plus 1. Repeat 1 plus 1 until, no, repeat I equals I plus 1. Repeat that until I equals 10. So what happens here is, this loop is going to keep looping until the I equals 10. So it's going to loop 10 times. Well, what's happening here is, we are inside of like one of these loops. It says repeat until 3 equals 9, which is which is basically, if you were writing it in English, you say, keep experiencing the illusion until you have found balance. But in like a program, it would be repeat until 3 equals 9. But it wouldn't be 3. You would have a variable called, say, let's say balance. Yeah. So you could say repeat until balance equals 9. And each time you went through the process, what you do is, if you was over here, if the point particle was over here, out of balance, what would happen is the variable balance would equal 6. So it would go back through the program and it would say balance is still 6. So it would go back and it would move the point particle again to another position. And it keeps doing that until it's experienced all of the point particles. And then it'll be in the 9, which is balance. Unresolved and what's this? Couple are the 2 possible states of process. Love and fear are the 2 possible states of emotions. Everything is either or, so everything is 369. Yeah, everything is either this or that because it's entangled. Because inside of the physical, one of the rules of the illusion is everything is entangled with something. So this hand is entangled with the space around it. Unresolved and resolved are 2 possible states of process. Love and fear are 2 possible states of emotion. And again, this is where the grid comes in. Physical and spiritual. It's positive and negative. 369 is the way to numbers. To numbers form of each point particle state. What's this? 369 is the way to numbers. I don't know what that is. 369 is the way to number form of each point particle state. Basically, I think what I'm saying is 369 is the way to find each point particle state. In other words, I look at it now as like a database. Yeah, look, it's like there's these things called arrays. You've got like an array is like this. So you've got a load of data like this. But then you can have these arrays where you've got basically like a database. So you end up with all these like data like this. So what it is the 369 is it's almost like a program which each point particle goes through, and it finds this. If 369 is the way you find the position of each point particle inside of the illusion, because everything is all entangled with itself. So the 3 is 5. Point particles number is 5. So if this was an array of data, like you would have like a database of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each of those numbers is a point particle. So the number 5, number 6. If number 6 is a 0, there's no fear. If number 9 is a 1, then it's in process. So basically, what you end up with is 369 of the point particle 5 would be 501, because the process is you're doing the process of the point particle number 5. Is there any unresolved issues? No. Is it resolved? Is it in balance? Yes. So 555. Yeah, 555 would be part love, part fear. 5 on its own equals balance. Yeah, 5 on its own is balance. As soon as the point particle 5 goes into the program of 369, which is basically the process of finding balance, even though it is already in balance, it will go through all of the possibilities. So it's like a flat database of all numbers equals balance. So the timeless is like a flat database. Again, like that, with all these, they're all in balance, containing each point particle state. If you put 369 into the timeless, 369 is like the illusion, basically. That's creating the physical. And it then becomes a 3D array. So it's a 2D, but really 3D array. Because what happens is, you've got this you've got all the point particles lined up, but each point particle has a state, has all these possibilities of existing like this. It's like a cube. The cube equals all possible states of each point particle. 3 process, 6 entanglement, 9 balance. You're only here once, Rachel said. Oh, this was funny. What happened was I went to work. Yeah, this is what was happening that week. I went to work, and I've just had this experience where I've sort of connected with the source, I suppose, and I come back. I went to work the next day. I took my wig off. Well, no, I didn't. I took my hat off, and I've started going to. Ever since I've gone to work, I haven't hid my hair anymore, because before this psychedelic experience, I was always wearing like a hat on my head at work because I was ashamed, I suppose, of my hair because it was out of balance. So what happened was I took the action of not hiding my hair anymore. Now I'm in balance with my hair. I've accepted it. I've turned my hair into a 9. So I'm now in balance with that. There's a lady there called Rachel. I was talking to her and she said, I said, no, she said, why aren't you wearing your hat? I said, I don't want to be, I don't know what I said. I don't want to be, I said something like it was a crutch. It was one of these sort of fear things. I was scared of showing my hair. And I thought, I'm not doing it anymore. And then she said, you only live once, which I thought was funny, because this whole thing here is about reincarnation. But when you are in balance, you do only live once, because you're only experiencing one timeline when you're in balance. I thought that was funny. That's the sort of thing that happens, is the universe starts giving you little sort of funny things. 369 is process to find particles that aren't in balance. Numbers equals the location, shape equals form, sound equals motion. So the numbers is the location of each point particle. The shape is the form of the point particles. So the shape is like the physical representation of these point particles in space. Shape is basically the location visually. And the sound is the motion, the vibration. Sun grows your hair, hiding stops growth. 9th day of the first month, 9/1/12 of the final year. Hell, new earth, heaven. Each dot, so basically this is the grid again. Each dot is earth in a different possibility. So here, the earth exists in like a hell state. Over here, the earth exists in a heaven state. In balance, the earth exists as new earth, which is in balance, which it already is. That's what's quite funny about it. So there's nothing wrong with being over here or over here. It's just part of the process. Grid represents new earth's location, so it's the centre. Middle is spinning, so it loops. And then you've got your experience. New earth equals balance. Just before balance, you have pure negative and positive, heaven and hell. This was me trying to show it in the timeline. This is the new earth. This is the earth experiencing everything. There's a point just before it becomes back into balance with itself. It has to experience pure negative and pure positive, heaven and hell. The grid shows the journey of life and death. Because the thing is, the earth is going through the exact same thing that we're going through. Because the earth is God. The earth is our God. So we are going through the process of finding balance. The earth is also going through the process of finding balance. It's so cool. Grid represents the death process. Facing demons and angels before balance. So basically, when you die, the process of death, what they talk about in like the Tibetan Book of the Dead and that, is you're going to face demons, like pure negative entities and pure positive entities. That's part of the process of the death process. So this is the same thing. It's just before you become balanced, you have to experience pure negative and positive. only you can take this journey as only one point particle. Basically, each point particle's journey is going to be different. So you are a point particle, so you are the only one that can experience this journey, which is like a story. So I talked about on the other one. Each point particle is basically living a story of finding itself. It's cool. Use this grid to guide you through the death process to reach New Earth. Each person has their own grid, as each point particle is in different locations to each Earth, to New Earth. Each person has their own grid. Because basically each person is a point particle. Gave that grid to myself from the future as a map to find myself. It's a self-contained loop. This grid to me is like a map to the way home. That's New Earth there. You find New Earth by balancing all opposites. This grid is a map to find home. What's this? Capstones on the pyramids equals 9. So without them, they are a 6. I don't know where that came from, but the pyramids, basically what happened is the pyramids, they used to have this little capstone on the top of them. They got removed. So this thing here says, if the pyramids have a 9 on the top, they're in balance. If they haven't, they're a 6. So again, this goes back to what I said before about the pyramids needing cleansing. That's probably the same thing. The pyramids are a negative at the minute, because they haven't got the capstone to put themselves into balance. I don't know where that came from. It says here, the death process is a journey from hell to heaven to earth, and not being attached, so no entanglement. So you have to go through the process of heaven and hell and earth, and not be attached to anything. Mum equals an angel and death, the ultimate attachment. I let go of mum. So there's a thing here about me mum. Me mum is like I think me and me mum are entangled really deeply. Something going on with that. The biggest illusion is life is death. Death is living. Look at this, look. It's all back to front. Life is death. What we are inside of is actually, we think we're alive, we're actually dead. And when we die, that's when we're actually going to be living. So now we are dead. This is why it's so solid. When dead, there will be no solid. So when you're actually alive, that you'll be in balance basically. So to be dead, it has to be solid. I put here, look, I feel exhausted but fulfilled. I remember that. That was this week was very weird. The emotions this week were insane. I was experiencing so many conflicting emotions this week when I wrote this. 36666, 3 pyramids. Pyramids are unresolved process. 0 equals 0. God is a 0. 3 equals process. 4 numbers. 3 plus 6 minus 9 equals 0. 3 plus 6 minus 9 equals 0. So this is how you get the entanglement inside of the entanglement. Like, the 0 is the loophole, because the 369 is happening inside of the timeless, which is the 0. 4 numbers. This is where it went back to being the 4 numbers. The cube is visual representation of the 0. So the cube is a visual representation of the 0. 6 unresolved process, still got energy. 9 unresolved process, no energy. 0, no energy in all particles. 6 can be love or fear energy. And then what have we got here? Look. This is a little point particle. Oh, this is the pyramid. So really, the pyramid is 1 point particle spinning. It creates a sphere. 2 entangled particles create a triangle that spins to create the cycle. This goes into something later on. 2 entangled particles, it's 2 entangled souls inside of the pyramid, spinning. When I look at this now, knowing what I know later, this bit here actually makes a lot more sense. Basically what it's saying is the pyramid is the 2 entangled particles. Particles are also souls. So you've got two entangled souls create the triangle. Because what happens is the two entangled souls creates the being, which is, the being is like a human, which has the two entangled souls inside of it. And it's spinning because it's process 369. A non-spinning pyramid equals unresolved energy. DNA is spinning. It's either spinning that way or that way. So it's a spinning pyramid. How long does this one go on for? Guys, quite a lot in this one, look. I'm gonna have to stop the video in a minute, I think. Look how long this goes on for. Let's see what we got. I'm gonna keep going for a bit. The grid has all shapes in it, so just need numbers of 3 particles to create process. The grid has all shapes in it, just need numbers of 3 particles to create the process. Knowing allows you to do, but what's so funny is knowing means you realise you don't have to do. That's the paradox. I like that. Knowing allows you to do. In other words, when you know, you can take action without thinking. But what's funny is, when you know, you realise you don't have to do anything. So you don't actually have to do any action. It's quite funny, that. But knowing means you do. Yeah. So you realise you don't have to do anything, but the fact that you know means you will do something. It's genius. Example. Here's an example of that little paradox thing. I know. So I go to work with no headscarf on. That's the action. That's the action of an unresolved process, which is now resolved as I know. That is so funny, because once I knew, I knew I didn't have to do it. Once I knew, I didn't have to do it. In other words, what that means is I could have carried on going to work with my headscarf on, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I've got my headscarf on or not. But you had to do the action of not wearing the headscarf to sort of prove that you know. But really, you could have kept wearing the headscarf because it doesn't matter. It says here, look, but you can't help yourself once you know, as to know is to do. In other words, once you know, you will do. Because the doing is you sort of proving to yourself that you know. But the funny thing is, because you know, you don't actually have to do anything. It's like riddles. It's like it is. It's cool though. I'm in love with this process. What's so funny is how nothing's changed, but everything's changed. It's self-contained systems because everything is entangled with itself. Paradox keeps process alive. Looking at the night sky is like being the point particle looking up at the grid. It wraps around you as all the stars are you in other possibilities. Just relocated. What's this? Just re-looked at my dream diary. 6th of June 2019. 6th of 6th. Look, how amazing is this? The day that I got this grid given to me was on the 6th of the 6th, 2019. How mad is that? So it's the 6-6. 6, unresolved process of yellow flame. So in that dream, what happened was the grid got given to me via a dream, an out-of-body experience. There was also a yellow flame where I was trying to go down to Suela, which I later found out was the virus. The grid, Joseph and David, he was Noel. So the person who gave me the grid was called Noel. And on the grid, he also put the names Joseph and David, which I found out later were to do with the Bible. One of them was positive, one was negative. They look out the window at night sky, looking at all possibilities. Oh, look, so this is me now talking about that dream. I think what I'll do is I'll make this the next episode, because this one, I'm going to stop this one here, and then I'll start the next one straight from here. There won't be no intro on, I think, on the next one. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you probably tomorrow or something for the next bit, where we'll continue from this bit here.